Okay, everybody, just a quick introduction and we'll get right into talking about Hawaiian shirts. But as promised in my last video, that where I had gotten that huge lot of 29 Hawaiian shirts, I'm going to show those to you today. But first of all, I'm going to show you the ones that have sold. And I'm like super stoked right now because right before I started filming this, I sold another shirt and it sold for $250. So I am super excited about that. So I'm going to show you the few shirts that have sold already. And then I have a short little video where I show you the rest of the shirts that I still have. Not all of them are listed yet. I'm still working on that. But I am, as of now, especially with that $250 sale, I am definitely in the profit with these shirts. So just a quick backstory. If you haven't seen that video, it's the one that's called, I'll try to link it up above, but it's the one that's called The Weirdest Place That I Thrift to Resell. And I happened to, it was basically an estate sale, but I had come across someone's huge collection of Hawaiian shirts and I ended up getting them for $15 each. So, anyway, I am going, like I said, I'm going to show you the ones that have already sold. I will show you the ones I still have that have not sold, but you'll get a chance to see all the different patterns and colors and brands and things like that. And then we'll take a few minutes at the end and we'll talk about some other brands that are good to be on the lookout for and, you know, a little bit more specifics on that. So let's just get started right away with the ones that were in my 29 Hawaiian shirt haul and but have sold and moved on already. So let's switch over to the computer and we'll look at them there. With the first shirt that I sold, which was a Nat Nast. Now, generally, I don't pick up Nat Nast shirts that are just kind of plain and, you know, unassuming. So Nat Nast shirts aren't necessarily like known for their very loud, all over graphic prints. They're actually more known for like bowling style shirts, very rockabilly. If you think of like, if you ever watched 2.5 Men, Charlie Harper on there, he always wore those bowling style shirts. They possibly, I think, were Nat Nast that he was known for wearing. Anyway, so some of those can sell well and some don't. If it's kind of nothing special about it, not that I'm finding them all the time, but I used to sell them back when I was first selling clothing years and years ago, and they just were a little bit harder to sell, and so I kind of got away from them. Now this shirt was included in that big lot, and it is actually a limited edition print, which made a huge difference. So some of the information I'm going to say, I think I kind of repeat myself because I filmed part of the video a couple days ago when I was just showing some of the shirts showing the shirts I still had in inventory. And I kind of talk about some of the brands then too. So if I repeat myself, I'm sorry. Anyway, so yeah, this one was really nice. It sold for $70. It had such an atomic mid-century kind of look to it. Very retro. And here, I'll show you the tag. Nat Nast Luxury Originals. And then let's see, it was down on the bottom of the shirt tail. It just had another little thing there, but this one didn't have a number for which limited edition it was. So I just went based off of the look of it. Now, so this first picture, I didn't do this for all of my Hawaiian shirts, but I've done it for a couple where the print is kind of hard to tell what it is from far away. And so I used an app on my phone called Layout, and I made that little collage for my first photo so that right away they get an idea of what the print looks like. So that was the first one that sold. It sold for $70. Now if we go over to Nat Nast shirts in general, so I did sold and I'm doing highest to lowest. So 275, it was a limited edition. There was only 600 for Elvis. Now this one, it says men's bowling shirt, Charlie Harper. That's that character I told you about on the TV show. And it was a custom shirt, sold for somewhere less than $250. This one was interesting, you know, somewhere around the 200, between 168 and 200. It was a vintage, very vintage, a mid-century Nat Nast shirt, and they use those words rockabilly as well. Here's some others. They have some more limited editions. 168 with this drive-in with a car. Someone sold a big lot of just the plain ones, which is also an option if you come across a bunch. Another mid-century 50s, 60s bowling shirt. And then I was interested to see that some of the plainer bowling shirt type ones, if they were new with tags, were actually selling pretty well. Another Trade Winds 18th hole, sold for $150. And so some of these, they're just showing the back. They've got embroidery on the back, and you'll see in my listing, I had in my next little section of video, I had gotten one in this Hawaiian shirt lot. There's one like that. It's Nat Nast, and it has just the graphic on the back. And yeah, so some of the plainer ones. This one does have a little bit of embroidery on the side, so that's good to kind of keep an eye out for those. And this one's a lot of 6. Here's more embroidery. So you get the idea. They're not like what you would think of if you think Hawaiian shirt, right? So they're, I mean, the one I had was probably the brightest colored one out of this whole, this whole top selling ones that we've seen, right? They're all pretty like earth tones, unless they have, you know, special embroidery or something like that. So that's just something to keep in mind. So Nat Nast, not necessarily a typical Hawaiian shirt brand, but it was definitely that same look that the person who whose collection I ended up with, that they liked. So let's go on to the next one that sold. This one was not a brand that I have ever heard before, but they're hard to miss. So I'll show you the two. I had 2 in the lot by this company and by this artist, and they both sold pretty quickly. And this one, so I started off with a picture of the back of the shirt, which I thought made it just a little bit more interesting and stand out a little bit more. And the point of this shirt, it was the Hard Rock Casino, which is not open anymore, from what I understand. So there's some elements on there that would appeal to collectors. Here's the front. So definitely, I'll show you the tag. Here's the tag. So it's La Rocca, London, 4 BC Ethic. And yeah, they're made in Korea, so it's a little bit older, probably 90s. And the artist, as you can see in my title, I put the artist as Vince Ray, which is what somebody told me, and then also I saw it on some other listings. They were definitely, here, let me pop over to the other one that sold. Here's the other one. This one was just about Las Vegas in general, and you can see the back of that one. Fabulous Las Vegas. So yeah, definitely very loud. I don't think so. If you look at their solds, highest to lowest, mine are in there too. But if you look, they're definitely eye-catching shirts. I don't think you would miss these at the thrift, so you might not even have to remember that name. You just might want to keep an eye out for big gaudy shirts. And who knows, it might be something, you know, that somebody wants. So okay, so Jam's World, these are my favorite, I think, out of the ones, and you'll see in that next section of the video, the buyer, or the person I got all the shirts from, his collection had lots of Jam's World, so I think that was one of his favorites too. This one is called, the pattern was called The People, and I'll explain it a little bit later too, but the fabric, the prints on the fabric are copyrighted by Jam's World, and they'll have, you know, not only like a men's shirt, And this one's long sleeve, which is a little bit unusual, but they might have a short sleeve version, or there'll be women's dresses, skirts, tank tops, women's shirts, and they'll use these same patterns and these fabrics. But they're copyrighted and limited edition to a certain degree, and certain patterns will get retired, and so that's where the collectibility comes in. So this one sold for $100. So as we saw, I mean, you could see it. So that one BC Ethic, this was a little bit harder to find, I think, and so that one sold for $160. This one sold for $100, and then this one sold for $100. So these were like straight out, people just bought them without making offers or anything like that. And then if we look at Jam's World in general, again, you're like, look at that, $895. I guess it has clocks all over it, so that was just a really rare pattern, and it was a little bit older. Anyway, so again, I think you would notice Jam's World patterns, but be sure to be looking in skirts and dresses. I sold a couple dresses last year. I think I got one at a yard sale and one at a thrift store, but the dresses sold pretty quickly, and I think most were $40 and higher. But yeah, just look for anything big and colorful like this and see if it's Jam's World, because that's definitely a brand that I would bolo. As you can see some of the different examples, and then you'll see my examples too. Okay, so the next brand that I have already sold, as I said in my intro, it just sold, and I'm like super excited, is Robert Graham. So this, if you've been reselling any length of time, you've probably heard of Robert Graham shirts. Now, back when I was reselling clothing the first time, maybe 10 years ago or a little bit, like 12 years ago, we were always looking for Robert Graham shirts. And they could even just be, they'd be kind of maybe plain. They would just look like a dress shirt, but they're like known for the flip cuff, you know, having a big, bold pattern on the flip cuff. And then like maybe a little bit up around the collar. Or sometimes it was kind of like bold, but the flip cuff, oh my goodness, is just like super, like another bold pattern, just, you know, kind of contrasting with the main pattern on the shirt. So I don't find those very often. I haven't found one in years, actually. And I've heard, like, it used to be like $70, no problem. And I've heard that's a little bit harder to do, but certain brands, certain patterns, certain things in Robert Graham can still do pretty well. So this is an example. This was a limited edition. And what was neat about this, it was kind of like this underwater scene. And then if you go, this is just inside the collar. It says "Keep Smiling, Robert Graham, limited edition," with this diver's helmet. It was a 2XL, and then very cool buttons on it. "Knowledge, Wisdom, Truth" is embroidered on most of the Robert Graham shirts on that down. It's down on like the shirt tail, if that's what you call it, on the front. And then here's the back. So the back had some really cool embroidery on it. It had a diver. And I debated putting that as my first photo, but I ended up just using the full shot of the other one. But there's a diver, and all those little ribbons kind of going down to him, those were all just embroidered different designs and things. So it was really cool, textured. Here's that flip cuff. So you see it's a totally different pattern on the inside of the cuff. And then I just shared the material content and everything. So yeah, I had somebody offer me $175 for this shirt the other day. And I debated, but I was like, you know what? This is like the best shirt in my lot, right? And I had only had it listed for a couple days, and I was like, you know what? I'd be happy with $200, because finding this shirt, it was kind of hard. I did find a $250 comp, which is why I started at this point. I was like, but you know what? I paid $15. I would be happy with 200. So I countered that buyer with 200, and I never heard from him again. So today's brand new buyer, just full price, just full asking price, just went ahead and bought it. So if you look at Robert Graham shirts, if we go highest to lowest, holy cow. Okay, so some of these I don't like, obviously I don't think you're going to miss these. They have like, I don't know. I think some are like jeweled or like rhinestones and embroidered like really crazily. At first I was like, why did that shirt sell for so much? But it's 10 Robert Graham shirts. But yeah, so limited editions with different themes obviously are going for the highest. That one has Darth Vader, Lord Vader on it. Okay. So yeah, some really, really flashy and gaudy things. This one, limited edition, I saw somebody had a bunch of like new with tags, brand new ones, and they're sold at pretty high prices because I think these are very high priced to begin with. So again, like you see that it's new with tags, $598 originally, and they still sold it for $538. So these could be pretty current. I don't know who that seller is. Here's another limited edition, you know, kind of has that same thing on the inside. But yeah, if you go down through all this, the high price holds, they are definitely shirts that would stand out to you and would, you know, not be just a regular dress shirt. But if we bump down a little bit further, you know, there's still some, you know, shirts that I think you would definitely notice. Okay, so we talked about Nat Nast, and we talked about that BC Ethic, which, like I said, I have never even seen that label before. Jam's World is definitely one I think that you'd be able to be on the lookout for. And then Robert Graham. So I only had one Robert Graham in my lot. But now you kind of have a little idea of what it is you're looking for and the potential and some of the prices on those shirts. Now let's take a minute. I'm going to go ahead and roll that footage of the shirts that I did find, and then we'll come back together again and we'll talk about a few more brands that you could definitely be on the lookout for Hawaiian shirts. Okay guys, so welcome to the show and tell portion of this video. I am going to share the Hawaiian shirts that I picked up in my last video. And I think there was probably already an introduction to this where I showed you the 4 that have already sold, but I wanted to get a chance to show you the rest before they all get listed and they start selling. So I'm just recording this little snippet while I've got this stuff. So this is one of my closets down in my eBay area, my room, my reselling room. And anyway, so let me just pull some out and I'll show them to you. And I'll show you the tags and everything too. Okay, so this is probably the best one that I picked up. You can see this one is, I've got sun coming in for a change, so that I'll try to stay out of that part. Look at this part on the back. It's got a diver, and this is all embroidered. Okay, so you might not be surprised that the brand on that is Robert Graham. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. Robert Graham, his shirts used to be a crazy bolo, like even plain ones. He's known for his, it's called a flip cuff, where the cuff is like a different pattern on the inside. So he's kind of known for that. And there's some other brands that do that too. So the gaudier the pattern with the flip cuff still does good. This happens to be a limited edition one. And so this was in that haul that I showed the other day. And I listed this one for $250. So it has sold that high in the past. So that's my starting point, was $250 for that one. But like I said, that's probably the best one. Hope you can hear me when I turn around. This one is a Jams World. Let me show you the tag. There's a few different Jams World tags I can show you. And it's got the size right there. So these are all, most of the shirts I found were extra large. A couple are marked 2XL, but the measurements are all within like an inch or two on all the shirts. So probably just a difference in age. So this one, as you can see, has a longer tail in the back. And the reason for that is it's got a bigger design of that face, very Picasso-esque type face. I gotta remember to be on this side because of that sunshine. I'm not used to winter sunshine in the valley of Montana. Anyway, so as you can see, very colorful designs. Here's another. This is another Jams World. You can see a different tag. This was a 30th anniversary. Now Jams World has been in business for about 60 years. And so this was 30 years ago. This was one of the 30th anniversary designs. And this one is a little harder to come by. I only found like one other in Terapeak. So I think I have this one listed at over $100 as well. Of course, those are just asking prices, you know, I don't know for sure. Here's another, this is a Jams World. And you can see the tag. And then one thing I'll show you with this, okay, so just this like floral and zebra pattern. And then one thing I'll show you, if you do find a Jams World, you gotta look on the inside tag on the seam. And they have the name of their fabric. So each pattern of the fabric is named and copyrighted. So this one is called Zebiscus, right? So zebra and hibiscus. So it's called Zebiscus. So it does make researching them a little bit easier when you've got that name to go by. This one, I'm trying to remember. I think I did this one this morning, but I'm trying to remember. There weren't any, one of these that I did this morning, like there were hardly any men's shirts available. As you see, some of these are long sleeve, some are short sleeve, but they, you know, so they copyright the pattern. And then they, you know, they make men's shirts, they make women's shirts, they make dresses, they make skirts, tank tops, different things like that. So you can find Jams World in both the men's and the women's section of the thrift store. And let's see, this one is another, this is a Nat Nast. So one of the ones I had sold was a Nat Nast. And he a lot of times has those like bowling shirt style ones that are kind of average sellers, but it seems like his limited edition, more novelty type patterns seem to do better. So this one has like a tiki bar, like outdoor bar, poolside design on it. This is a different brand. This one actually surprised me. I didn't know it was in the lot. The brand is Citron Santa Monica. And I have sold this brand before, but as a woman's jacket. And so I was excited to see it because the woman's jacket sold for like $70. And so I didn't even realize, I don't think, that the company did men's clothing. So it's just a very, you know, there's nothing really specific in it, but it's very like Asian motif and colors, some bamboo, things like that. So I got that one listed. Here's another one I listed, and here's yet another Jams World tag, which is a little different. I think maybe newer than the ones I had been showing you. This one had a name as well, but this was one, yeah, it's called Ahina Hina. So there weren't any men's shirts in this pattern. This might have been the one I was talking about. And it I don't really have comps to go by. So I looked up Jam's World rare patterns, and I tried to I sorted by price. And not many of the really high priced ones were just floral like this, you know, or botanical. So I decided to keep the price. I think my price is more at like 60 or 70 or 75 as my starting point. So it seemed like the more novelty type styles in the rare prints did better, but that's not to say that somebody won't want this. So I'm gonna move the camera a little bit. That sun is moving faster than I expected. Bad time to be doing this. Okay, and then the last one that I've got listed for now is this one. It's actually called Café de France. That's the pattern name. And there was actually several of these listed, I think. So I think I might have just shot for like $50 for this one, because I don't know that there was any in that size. So moving on to the ones I haven't listed, so I don't know as much about these. This one, I did notice a little bit of a stain in here. So I'm not sure if I'm just going to disclose it and list it, or if I'm going to try to get the stain out. All of the Jam's World shirts are rayon, so they are washable, but then you hang to dry them. Yeah, this was another older Jam's World tag. Jam's World, from what I understand, like I said, they've been in business about 60 years, and they started doing this label, Jam's World, and this type of shirts and things like that, like in the 90s. So before that, it was Hawaiian apparel, but like under different names, and jams as in the long like board shorts and surfing shorts, kind of cut off pants can be called jams. And I think the founder of this company is the one who came up with that back in the day. But anyway, there's information on the Jam's World website about their history. Now moving on to another brand, Rain Spooner, might be one you've heard of, and probably the one I've come across the most. It has a really fun bartender pattern, like, so you can see him like shaking, you know, the martini shaker. This one was probably not, the Rain Spooners are not worth as much as like the Jam's World and some of the other ones, the limited editions. The artist on this one, it's kind of hard to read, but the artist is Guy Buffett. And I did see comps like in the 45 or so range for that one. So that'll probably be where I'm at. So tripling my money or a little less. Here's another Guy Buffett Rain Spooner. It's like a, I don't know, it's like a men's club, or not really, because there's a woman in her underwear playing the piano in the background. So maybe cigar club, or I don't know, something like that. So we'll get that figured out. Here's another Rain Spooner, but not a certain artist. It's just a Rain Spooner, and it's Egyptian cotton. Some of those were Egyptian cotton, maybe you saw. Anyway, it's just a very grapes and pumpkins and things like that. Back to another Jam's World. This one I think is actually pretty rare. Maybe not rare, but I did see some comps that were pretty high. And I think right now the only thing available in this print is women's clothing. And the print is called Evening Rose. It was just kind of very unusual, not bright colored. Jam's World. Another Jam's World, just a bright floral. It like goes on and on forever, right? Here's another Jam's World. Looks like a still life kind of pattern. Let's see what they call that one. Some of them were Okay, this is like that. This one does not have a pattern name, so I think they're older than when they started naming.
Actually, jumping in here quickly just to say that I think the tag is just faded and that the pattern names do actually exist. I just have to see if I can make it out on the tag.
We're copywriting the patterns, so I'll have to figure that out. This one's kind of unusual. Another Jams World. I'll show you the back because I haven't buttoned these yet. It's a very like Middle Eastern, antique Middle Eastern type print with camels and sultans and all sorts of things. Very different. I don't know if this one had a name. No. Yeah, it does. Travels. It's just called Travels. So I don't know that I found comps for that one yet. Another floral. Another one with that long tail. Big bold floral. This one's got a little bit of like the stitching around the buttonhole coming loose. And this one, it's really faded. I don't know that that one has a name either. Hibiscus pattern though. This one's kind of cool. This is a rain spooner, the art of Eddie Y, another Egyptian cotton. If you can see here, I'll show you the tag. And it's a bunch of like jazz musicians. If you can see that. Don't know much about the values of these yet because I haven't listed them. Another Jams World, it says men's edition. And a bunch of different animal prints on that. And I think this one was called, yep, Jungle Skins. So I think I have a feeling that one will do pretty well. This one's very different. It's floral, but very like antique, coppery kind of colored. A black floral, they call that in women's clothing. And that one is called Autumn Flowers. So yeah, nice autumn colors on that one. This one's super fun. This one is Rain Spooner, another different tag for Rain Spooner. And this one has skiers, but they're very alpine or vintage, you know, vintage looking skiing. So I thought that was a lot of fun. We'll see how well that one does. And we're getting there. This one is very bright. This is another Jams World. You can probably tell by now. Very, very unique prints with the Jams World. And another one, kind of similar, but with a white background. These big circles in bright colors. The other thing I really like about the Jams World shirts, I'm going to get closer, is the buttons are all decorated just like the shirts. Some are paint spattered in the colors that match the shirt. So just something more interesting on the shirts as well. And last one from the haul that day is this one. And that's also a Jams World. So yeah, I think I can safely say I mostly had Jams World in that haul. So that was super exciting. And I already had a rain spooner that I haven't listed yet. This was like, it's got the map of California on the back. And it's the wine country in California. So I just hadn't listed this yet, but it'll just get listed as I list my other ones. That's kind of the rain spooner tag I'm most familiar with. And this one's worth, I don't know, probably just like $25, $30, but I had picked that up at a thrift store for a couple bucks. So anyway, that's my little haul that I got the other day. If you haven't seen that other video about where I got them, it's super interesting. And I will try to link that up above, or just go to my channel and like find it. It's like the one right before this one. Anyway, I'm gonna move on to whatever I have planned next for this video. Okay, I missed one. I was in my closet looking for something else and I found one that I missed. So just real quick, it's another Nat Nast. But what's awesome, it's just like plain black, right? But this is the awesome part. Very appropriate for living here in Montana. Glacier National Park is just up the road. So this is the Going to the Sun Road. So it has this nice embroidery on the back. So that again was a limited edition. So I just wanted to make sure to share that one with you too. Spooner, because as you saw in that last little clip, I did find and pick up a few rain spooners that were part of that haul. And like I said, I think in the video possibly, that they're not worth as much as the Jams World and some of those things, but there are some valuable rain spooners, as we can see as we look at these solds right now. So the main thing I think with rain spooner for the higher value ones are the cross-collectible type things. So Rain Spooner did a lot with Disney or Pixar. So if you can find any of those, here's Toy Story. You can see we're in like the $300 range. Pixar Monsters. So yeah, anytime, you know, you can pick up Rain Spooner that's Disney, that is a definite bolo. He also did some sports teams. Ones I don't know if they're not necessarily going to be up this high. They're probably more in like the $75 to $100 range. I sold one back in 2018. I had found one that was the MLB. It was just like a bunch of teams. So it wasn't, you know, I think one specific team obviously probably would have sold higher, but I still got $60 for that shirt. So, so yes, Disney, sports, those types of things. This Godzilla one obviously is fairly popular. Star Wars. Let's see. Let's try to get down out of Disneyland. Okay, let's just pop over a couple pages. LA Dodgers. So here we are right around the $70, $60 range. And University of Michigan. So yeah, things that are themed I think are going to do the best for Rain Spooner. He also has, he does like certain artists like work with him. So like the different tags we saw, Guy Buffett, and then there was the Art of Eddie Y, and then there's Dietrich Veres is another one. I just picked up a pair of swim trunks that are Rain Spooner and Dietrich Veres. So I haven't looked up comps on those yet, so I'm not sure. But, you know, Rain Spooner in general, it'll still probably sell. It's a pretty well-known name in with the Hawaiian shirt community, collecting audience. And, you know, they'd probably still sell in the $20, $25, $30 range if they're just like basic florals or things like that. So like I said, like on the haul that I got, the Rain Spooners were just kind of part of that whole lot, and buying more got my prices down lower. So as you can see, you know, some of my shirts are going to sell for $75 to $100 or even $250 like we saw. And then my Rain Spooners will probably be more like $40, $45. You know, they're a little bit different. They're not just floral. They have different themes and things like that. So, you know, maybe I'll be surprised actually, but we'll see how they do. So Rain Spooner is one that you can keep a lookout for. Another name that probably pops up when you're thinking of Hawaiian shirts is Tommy Bahama. So I'm right now just looking at pre-owned shirts. I really don't know why this Tommy Bahama sold for so much money. I mean, it was a best offer, but it was still pretty up there, I guess. Anyway, so the first few are just lots, it looks like. And then we get into the Tommy Bahama that I had realized was probably the best kind of Tommy Bahama shirt to look for, is the ones with a design on the back. So I have, you know, I've sold plenty of Tommy Bahama items, just regular plain sweatshirts or I'll find new with tags, just like There's one called the Flip Shore. It's like reversible. It's just a sweatshirt. We've sold that a couple times. You know, $30, $40 or whatever, 25 for some. And yeah, so I just don't pick up everything Tommy Bahama, but I had learned several years ago that really the best Tommy Bahama shirts are going to be these ones with an embroidery or a picture. It doesn't necessarily have to be embroidered, I don't think, but like a silk shirt with that design on the back. This one's a Disney one with Tommy Bahama. So always keep an eye out for that. So like this one is kind of classic, what I'm talking about. These parrots and cocktails. And these are all on the back of these silk shirts, and they're the button style shirts. So that's generally, again, I don't come across these that often. You know, it's kind of funny in general. Besides this haul, I have not come across many good Hawaiian shirt brands in Montana. That's why I think this haul was so much more exciting. There's Hawaiian shirts at the thrift stores, but they're department store brands. There's like Puritan and, you know, anything that you could buy at JCPenney or Sears or something like that. And those generally are not the Hawaiian shirts that we're looking for. You know, if you got them cheap enough and you just they were like maybe a larger size, then you could probably go for it. But in general, I just don't come across the shirts like I did when I lived on the West Coast. Okay, so that's what I was going to say about Tommy Bahama. And, you know, keep an eye out too. He does sell, you know, I think I've sold some swim trunks by him, and you know, it's not a terrible brand. You just have to be a little bit more selective in the pieces that you pick up. This one was New York Yankees. So yeah, anytime there's a cross-collectible or something like that in there, holidays. Okay, so let's go on to another brand. This is a brand I have never found to my knowledge. It's called Mambo Loud. And this 90s one sold pretty high. That was in Australia. I do believe it is an Australian company. But again, it's one of those brands that I don't think you're going to miss it. It's got the word loud right in its title. But as you can see, it's very colorful. It's got all sorts of designs. You know, some are crazier than others. And there's some vintage and then there's some newer. So yeah, I think these would jump out at you as well. It's even possible, I think they make shorts that are very bright and colorful as well. Okay, so I don't have a lot of experience with Mambo Loud, but it's just, it comes up in some of the high prices of men's Hawaiian shirts. Tory Richard is another name, and you can come across some Tory Richard that is kind of boring, just kind of generic Hawaiian brand. I think I would stick with those. I would stick with larger sizes. I did sell one last year that was a 2X. I think it was 2XL. And it sold for $30, and it was just kind of a generic floral or leaves or something like that. But as we're looking at these higher priced ones, again, they're embroidered. There's something specific about them. It looks like holidays was a big thing for the high priced ones. Let's see, New Year's Eve. And then lots again. So yeah, if you see something very specific, and this is an older Tory Richard tag, so that's a vintage one. So that did pretty well. And actually, now that I'm looking at this, there's something I didn't have in my notes, but I should mention for Hawaiian shirts that are vintage, especially vintage ones. They have something called the reverse print. So I don't know how good their pictures will be, but if you see this, the outside of the shirt looks like the inside. So if you go to the collar, like the the inside of the shirt is darker colors than the outside. This one's a really extreme example, so that's actually pretty good. And they call that reverse print, and that's a fairly common thing that comes up with Hawaiian shirts. Okay, next brand, Hilo Hattie. Hilo Hattie? I think it's Hilo Hattie. And now with Hilo Hattie, this is a very iconic name to dealing with Hawaii, and I think they still have shops now, and you go, Hilo Hattie mugs are all over thrift stores, but very much like gift shop, tourist stop kind of thing to get something from Hilo Hattie. So I would say with them, I would focus on vintage. As you can see, the higher priced ones are not just vintage, but also dresses. So, you know, there's some different, you know, unusual print ones that are Hilo Hattie that are men's shirts. Disney got involved there too. But like this one, this 80s Hilo Hattie, it's a caftan. Anyway, nice picture, nice job on the picture there, sold for $120. So you can also kind of check the women's and check women's dresses for vintage Hawaiian dresses, and that, you know, those can do pretty well. So yeah, just Hilo Hattie's worth a look if you end up seeing, you know, seeing it in your the men's Hawaiian shirts. I would definitely look it up. And again, it, you know, they might not sell for $100, but you might get, you know, 20, 25 or something for a regular one. Okay, so that one's actually did pretty good. That's just classic floral one, got a bid for $80. And I think, oh, this is, okay, so this is what I was going to talk about. So Hilo Hattie kind of led right into it. So if you're looking at vintage Hilo Hattie, vintage Hawaiian shirts in all different brands can do pretty well. So what you're going to want to look for is that the shirts were actually made in Hawaii. And so that even helps you just right away as you're flipping through. You know, I saw some Hawaiian shirts the other day, and they were made in all sorts of different places, China and everything. But a good key for a good Hawaiian shirt is that it's actually made in Hawaii. So as you can see, all I did on here was a search for vintage Hawaiian shirts. And there's all sorts of different brands, as you can see. Some of these I'm not even going to try to pronounce. Some are, I mean, that's a Van Heusen, but it's vintage, right? But it's just got an awesome pattern on it. You know, Ralph Lauren got into Hawaiian styles. So as you can see, a lot of these high-priced ones are 50s, 40s, 60s. And JCPenney had some Hawaiian shirts. And there's a vintage Jams World, another Ralph Lauren. Ocean Pacific, Mambo Loud, we saw that one. There's even a Patagonia. Okay, so Duke Hanamoku. And so they can be all different kinds of materials as well. One of the best selling, if you find a vintage Hawaiian shirt and kind of helping even to date it, is some of the materials. So if you want to look for bark cloth, and I can't really get into being able to identify bark cloth. There's probably someone has done a YouTube video on that, but it's a very textured kind of material, like heavier material. But you can also find really good Hawaiian shirts that are silk, that are rayon. If they're like from the 70s, they might be polyester, like double knit polyester, cotton lawn. So all different materials. Bark cloth kind of gives you that very definite mid-century kind of vibe, and usually has very interesting patterns on it. So if you look at, I was looking at this one, some of the keywords that you can use for vintage Hawaiian shirts or Hawaiian shirts in general. The style of the shirt is called a camp shirt. C-A-M-P, and that's just like a collared short sleeve button front shirt. You can say camp shirt, you can say aloha, you can use rockabilly, as you can see in this title. Down here you can see camp. They used aloha. I'm trying to see somebody else, other people's words. We see camp. Okay, so the next tab I think I was going to go over to was I was going to show you one of these vintage ones up close. Okay, so this was a 1940s Hawaiian shirt, and then it says Bing Crosby label, which is rare. So if you go over here, you can see it says Bing Crosby, and you know, that's kind of what a vintage tag, kind of classic vintage tag will look like. It doesn't look like the tags today. And Bing Crosby should be a big giveaway. That one just says made in the USA, but some will just say made in Hawaii. And that one sold for $525. I don't think he says what it's made out of, what fabric it is, but anyway, that's a really good find. That's really nice. So I wanted to share that with you. So, like I said before, you can use the word rockabilly. You can even use, I've seen people use VLV, so Viva Las Vegas, and I'll show you in the next slide what that is. Viva Las Vegas, it's a rockabilly weekend, and so this year it's coming up April 27th through the 30th. So it's actually a good time to be listing Hawaiian shirts. People are starting to look for their outfits for this weekend, or maybe already have started looking. And rockabilly, if you don't know that word, it's an aesthetic right now, but rockabilly started off as it's a type of rock and roll, and it mixes rock and roll and hillbilly music. And so, I mean, that's a whole nother subject. But as an aesthetic, this is from the Aesthetics Wiki. And so if you didn't know that there was a wiki, it's getting late. If you didn't know that there was a wiki for aesthetics, now you do, right? So it's on Fandom, otherwise known as Wikipedia. But anyway, I mean, not Wikipedia. Anyway, just a wiki. And it used to have another name. I just can't remember what it was. But anyway, it's Fandom. And on the Aesthetics Wiki under Rockabilly, it brings out that it first emerged during the 50s in the United States rock and roll scene. It's a combination of rock and hillbilly. And here we go. This is the part we need to know. Nowadays, the term describes the subculture of people who want to live a lifestyle and or wear the fashion themed after the original rock fans of the 50s. Many of the motifs are exaggerated with the visual cliches applied to aspects of modern life, such as modern fridges designed to look vintage. So it's kind of connected to the vintage car, pinup, pop culture enthusiasts that come during the day. So here's a list of visuals: polka dots, milkshakes, roller skates, jukeboxes, red roses, poodles, paisley, skulls, old school tattoos, pinup art, vintage cars. Yeah, so definitely those first couple, or those shirts I showed you at the beginning that had sold really quickly that were about Las Vegas and everything. There was pinup girls and just all sorts of things like that. Retro American diners, barber poles. So anyway, there's all of this information about the fashion that's associated with that. So you can definitely use rockabilly as a keyword in your thing, in your titles. And I think that's all I had to share with you today as far as shirts. Okay, so that is it for today for Hawaiian shirts. Hopefully you learned something new to be on the lookout for as you're out thrifting for resale. Go ahead, leave me a comment below if you've sold Hawaiian shirts, if I've missed a brand, if I totally messed something up. Go ahead and leave the comment below. Go ahead, tell me your best score as far as Hawaiian shirts, if you've sold them before, if there's a brand that you particularly like to look out for. I would love to learn that as well. a lot of my research was based a little bit on experience, but also just on being in the reselling community and seeing things that people have sold, but also just kind of doing some quick eBay research as well. So I'm sure there were brands in there that I wasn't able to touch on. And I was thinking even just now, Alfred Shaheen, if I'm saying that correct, is a name to be on the lookout for. And that would be more in the vintage category as well as in women's dresses. I've even seen people come across yardage of fabric that was designed. Anyway, so I think I'm gonna go now and have some dinner. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I'm going to be releasing this probably on the day that I normally release the what solds, and I will just bump the what sold a couple days into the future. So that'll probably come out on Thursday. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing great and your reselling weeks are going good, and I will talk to you soon.